You want me to get you a plug?
It's
a plug right back. I don't have a plug. This one right there. On the floor. Yeah, mine's big. You want some water?
Oh, no, that's how I'm good.
Joe, will you go in my office in the corner and get 1, 2, 3, 6, 7 water? Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Thursday, December 21st, 2023, at 6 p.m. Sandridge, District 172, Committee of the Whole. Meeting is now called to order. Roll call, please.
Ms. Gray. Ms. Newton. Ms. Lee. Here. Mr. Colwell.
Here.
Ms. Guthrie.
Here.
Ms. Kruger.
Here.
President Jenkins Brown.
Here.
Roll call is complete.
Thank you. All right, first on our agenda is Finance Department bills for approval. $563,597.22. Charlotte is not here, so
I can speak to that.
all right.
Good evening, board. All bills were uploaded to your 2 board docs. This evening, you will be asked to approve a total of $563,597.22. When Opal returns, we will have the actual bills that match what was sent to you via board docs if anyone wants to inspect the bills. And if you have any questions, After inspection, I am happy to answer any questions. Everything that is in our bill book is already uploaded to board docs if you have reviewed those. That concludes this presentation.
Okay. Discussion? Question? All right, next on our agenda is the Otis presentation. Dr. Kim Noss?
I'm gonna go closer because I can't see. So one of the things that everyone has been asking about, last month we celebrated the fact that we have another microphone. Oh, fancy. Ouch. Okay. Last month we celebrated the fact that we were commendable. And then I had received questions from people, well, what are you doing to help the students that are not commendable? A commendable status doesn't mean that every student is on grade level. Commendable means that you're growing your students and every single student in every single subgroup that they grew. In our district, which is very uncommon, it usually takes schools 4 years after being in the school improvement cycle to get to that commendable status. We were able to achieve that in 1 year. This year, we purchased a program, and the name of the program is called Otis. And the Otis program will allow us to do a deeper dive and to disaggregate the data. So when we come back in January, we're going to look to see if there's a correlation between students' Illinois Assessment of Readiness scores, students' MAP scores, grades earned in classes, and then also looking at factors such as attendance. So for example, if you don't come to school, students who are suspended for 10 or more days, specifically at the high school level, those students end up earning a grade of an F because you fall so far behind. But at the elementary level, students usually don't fall that far behind because there's a higher level of nurturing. You see the same students every day, and then teachers are kind of hounding students, or encouraging them, I should say, to make up their work. So Dr. Newman put this together, and with Otis, it's going to integrate information that we pull directly from our student information system. This year, we were phasing out Tyler was the student information system, and now we are in the process of transitioning to Infinite Campus. When you have all of your data implemented correctly, is the operative word, in Infinite Campus, anyone can ask for any report, and if you have the data in there, I would say last year we were doing a lot of spreadsheets and charts and having to manually enter data. If you have a meeting with a parent, we can show you everything that your child is doing. These are the MAP scores. This is how much they grew. Your student has this percentage of attendance. They've never had any discipline issues, et cetera, et cetera. So it's going to very nicely integrate all of the various systems: assessment management, progress monitoring, and MTSS support. I've been asked consistently, what is Sandridge doing to effectively meet the needs of struggling learners? Well, I would say the week before school started this year, we put together our team that would allow us to be instructional leaders instead of managerial leaders. But I would say 2 days before school started, my second grade teacher quit. First grade teacher resigned. And then I had to pull my reading interventionist to teach first grade. That was the best decision because as an interventionist, she's helping pockets of children, and that work is important, but you would never want kids in first grade to have a different teacher every single day until you could recruit a teacher. Then, just when we thought we had a person to facilitate, to do our culture and climate, we had a teacher for 7th and 8th grade science who worked with us over the summer, and then at the end of summer school, she resigned. This is an era where there is a severe shortage of teachers, but not only is there a severe shortage, teachers can write their own tickets to go anywhere in the world. So if you're not tenured in a school district and you want to work in a district that's paying more money and you really don't have any skin in the game, people are kind of shopping their resumes for whatever district is paying, whichever district is paying a higher salary. We've just successfully negotiated a 4-year contract, and the board was very generous with salaries, and our teachers are receiving salary plus step, and I feel that we will be able to successfully recruit quality teachers to replace people who are leaving the system. Not on this agenda, but we interviewed our first teacher to hire for the 2024-2025 school year, and she's coming to us fresh out of college. And along with that freshness, you have new ideas, people who really want to work with children. And to show her commitment to this district, she's on her college break now, but she's shadowing various teachers so that she can get a feel for things. And she wants to teach summer school. So Dr. Newman couldn't be with us today. Quite a few people here are becoming very ill because kids are sick. And, little kids, they just sneeze and they just don't know, or they're coming to school knowing, some parents are sending kids to school knowing they're sick. And so quite a few staff members are out, quite a few kids are out, but you're going to see more of this in January, because by that time we'll have all of the data in the system. We'll have our second set of MAP scores, and Mr. Cosina will be reviewing the MAP data, and we're going to compare how students did from MAP assessment 1 to MAP assessment 2. Any questions regarding Otis? Yes. What?
Mr. Vega.
I thought you said zip your pants up. I'm like,
It was a-
Let me give it back.
and then make sure that, I know Miss Gray said she was joining, and Miss Newton. If you see them in the waiting room, please let them in. I don't have my phone in case they're texting me. I can't get in. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, hearing no questions, I will move on to the next agenda item. The next agenda item is the personnel update. We don't have any new people on for personnel. All of the people on personnel report are internal faculty and staff members, and they have signed up to work with students. And in alignment with the collective bargaining agreement, the contract tells me how much money they are supposed to make. Stipends will now be paid in 2 installments, fall and winter. Fall stipends are paid on the very last pay period in the month of December, and winter stipends are paid on the last pay period in May. So we have Brittany Washington for choir. She's also over student council. Emma Hines is running concessions. Jasmine Thomas is the assistant cheerleading coach. Thank you. Miss Motley is the cheerleading coach. Martinez Sutton was the boys basketball and girls assistant coach. Maurice Richardson is the athletic director. Rodney Pruitt, girls basketball coach. And then Miss Winfrey is the 8th grade sponsor. When you have a more seasoned faculty and staff, on occasion, it's really hard finding people who want to work. So I applaud their efforts, because they're really pouring into the children, and the level of excitement that is occurring is phenomenal. The parking lot is packed when we're having basketball games, during our during the winter concert. Was that last night? Okay, it just seems like my days are running together. When we had the winter concert last night, people kept coming to get me, because after some people's kids presented, people wanted to leave, and other people had them blocked in. And so the parking lot is not big enough, and we acknowledge that. And so we're trying to figure out how can we make it easier for people to support events, but get in and get out. And that was just a disaster, but it didn't take away from the excitement on the inside. Are there any questions regarding the personnel report? All of these are internal people, either a teacher or a para working with our kids, and some secretaries. Hearing none, this is probably the most boring part of this meeting, but I'm going to go over the first reading of Press Policies 113. with our policies for press, they allow you to adopt the policies if there are no substantive, if you don't have any substantive changes, you can adopt them on the first reading. And I'm sure that you've seen these because since I've been here, I think they've made several changes. One of the things that I really enjoyed a few weeks ago, whenever they have changes and they introduce you to the new edition of press, there's a webinar and they will highlight for you in 1 hour what the changes are. The policies that I sent to you were in color. Anything that's highlighted in green means that it's something new. Anything in the salmon or the pink color is going to be language that they have discontinued. There are 101 pages, and I'll try to get through all of them, but the good thing is there aren't many changes to the policies. So Board Policy 2:20, Powers and Duties of the Board of Education. In this policy, it talks about what are the responsibilities of school board members. And the only change that was made to this policy was number 6, entering contracts in accordance with applicable federal and state law, including using public bidding procedures when required. Anything that cost over $5,000, we always obtain 3 or more quotes. Anything that is over $25,000, you are required to go out to bid. The only exception to that is for curriculum and technology. But if we're going to go with the new this year, we're up for bid for the food service company. So people have to have an equal opportunity to bid on that. And then in number 10, evaluating the educational program and approving school improvement. The language that was stricken was district improvement plans. So there's just a school improvement plan, not a district. Those were the only changes to that particular policy. Policy 2:120, board member development. The language that was stricken beginning in the fall of 2023. So they crossed that out because we're already past the fall of 2023. All school board members within the first year of their term, you must take a trauma-informed practice for students and staff within the first year. So if you have not taken a trauma-informed class online the way that you did the Open Meetings Act classes, Opal will get you registered, and I will have her do a survey of the board. But in this day and age, kids are coming to school and some staff members with a lot of things going on that have happened in their personal life or in the world, and they want board members to have compassion and training for how to interact and deal with students and staff when those situations occur. And then language that was changed, the superintendent or designee shall invite all current candidates for the office of board member to attend, number 1, board meetings, except that this invitation shall not extend to any closed meetings and pre-election workshops for candidates. And then language that was new references the Open Meetings Act. So if you have a person that is applying to serve on a school board, and then you are aware, you make them aware of when you're having your meetings, but you can't have like one-on-one meetings. It has to be in alignment with the Open Meetings Act so that everything is in full transparency and that it's done in the public. The current board can never invite a person who's a potential candidate to come into closed session because that information is confidential and it's only for a current board member. My next policy is 2:200, types of Board of Education meetings. Under closed meetings, they just eliminated a Public Act 101 through 469, so they just crossed that out. That was a cross-reference. And then item number 5, highlighted in green. When you talk about the various kinds of meetings, there are regular meetings, which is what we're having tonight. There are closed meetings where if you're evaluating your superintendent or you're hearing about teacher performance or student misconduct, we go into closed session. And new information that's presented under the closed session, evidence or testimony presented to the board regarding denial of admission to school events or property pursuant to 105 ILCS 5/2424. That's a reference coming from what is known as the Illinois School Code, provided that the board prepares and makes available for public inspection a written decision setting forth its determinative reasoning. So let's say, for example, you have a parent who's come to a basketball game, and then that parent attacks a student, and now you are prohibited from attending any school-sponsored events. If we discuss that in closed session, someone can ask for that information regarding the written decision. Why did the board make that decision? And basically, it would be because if someone attacks or assaults a staff member, you're not contributing to a safe and secure environment. And as a Board of Education, you empower me to ensure that all students and staff are safe. We haven't had to do that. We have had to have people leave the campus, but we haven't banned anyone from attending events. You might see this when you get closer to things like 8th grade graduation. When a student engages in a misconduct, if a principal recommends that a student should not participate in graduation or an 8th grade trip, that decision should be made in consultation with the superintendent. But if they make the decision and a parent asks for a hearing or a meeting, it will come to the superintendent. If the superintendent supports the principal's decision, then a parent can make their plea or request to a Board of Education. And then the public has a right to know the reasoning behind how you're making your decisions. That's not something that, as a superintendent, that I will ever take lightly, excluding a student. I feel the activities are for kids, but graduations are for parents. And just personally speaking, that's not something I support. But if you bring drugs, the only time I would exclude a student is if you bring drugs, guns, or a weapon to the school, or if it's mob action and you assault someone and they end up in the hospital. If it's a fight between kids, that should be a suspension or something on a where you give the kid a chance to earn that privilege back. 2:220 Board of Education meeting procedures. There are no substantive changes. However, there's one bit of language where it says quorum and participation by audio or video means. A quorum of the board must be physically present at all board meetings. So you have to have, if you have 7 members on the board, I cannot have a meeting if I don't have at least 4 physical bodies here. A majority of the full membership of the board constitutes a quorum. Language that they have added: provided a quorum is physically present, a board member may attend a meeting by video or audio conference. So this evening we have 2 board members that are joining us via video. If he or she is prevented from physically attending because of, number 1, a personal illness or child care obligations, or unexpected child care obligations. If a member wishes to attend a meeting by video or audio means, he or she must notify the recording secretary or superintendent at least 24 hours before the meeting unless advance notice is impractical. The recording secretary or superintendent will inform the board president and make appropriate arrangements. A board member who attends a meeting by audio or video means, as provided in this policy, may participate in all aspects of board meeting, including voting on any item. So this is a change in the language that if you have a personal illness or disability, personal illness or disability, employment or district business, or a family emergency. Those are the only 3 reasons. And then the legal reference that was updated, it just highlights Open Meetings Act. Along with this policy, 2:220, Exhibit 2, motion to adjourn to close meeting. Public Act 101-459 was stricken from the language. New to this policy, evidence or testimony presented to the board regarding denial of admission to school events. This is just the exhibit, and I've kind of already talked about that. But basically, whenever you are enforcing that policy, you have to have, when you have that motion, it'll say who made the motion to uphold whatever the ruling was, who seconded the motion, and then now it's evidence or testimony. So you're not just taking the word of the school's administration. We have to give you everything if we deny someone to an event. 2:220, Exhibit E6, log of closed session minutes. The purpose of this log is to facilitate the board's semi-annual review of closed minutes. Semi-annual means every 6 months or as soon after as practical. So something new that we're doing, we've learned a lot with the auditors here. Whenever we don't have closed session, we take a copy of the agenda and we still type on a sheet of paper to say there are no closed session meetings. When I first started here, we would go into closed session every single meeting for the first hour, and we would discuss personnel and things of that nature. The board empowers their one employee to make those hiring recommendations, but the ones that the board is always involved in are usually higher ranking administrative positions. For example, you are always involved when a superintendent is hired, and because your principal has the ability to impact the outcomes of a school, you are always involved, and the superintendent would tell you what the process looked like, how many candidates, why this person was the recommended candidate, and on occasion, some boards may want to interview the person as well. Additional language has been added. Evidence or testimony presented to the board. So when we look at this checklist, they're giving you, it's like a template where you can take notes for the various items. We don't do our closed session minutes in alignment with this exhibit. It's just an exhibit log, but we take the agenda and then we type directly into the agenda and print it out. What I've learned through this audit, and because like when you're audited, if you don't have your ducks in a row, it can be a nightmare. They ask to see all board minute meetings, and they're online. And so something that we quickly learned, they were there, but if you're trying to access those minutes from a mobile device, it wasn't opening up what the minutes were. So we were able to catch some things, say they're there because you have to have them, but closed session minutes are never posted online. 4:10, fiscal and business management. The only change to this is item number 4. The superintendent or designee shall perform each of the following, and it kind of gives you a breakdown. Post the district's final annual budget, itemized by receipts and expenditures on the district's internet website. We are in compliance with that. File a certified copy of the budget resolution and an estimate of revenues by source. We're in compliance with that. Ensure disclosure to the public of the cash reserve balance of all funds. We do that. Something that's new says present a written report that includes the annual average expenditures of the district's operational funds for the previous 3 fiscal years at or before the board meeting at which the board adopts its levy. In the event the district's combined cash reserve balance of its operational funds is more than 2.5 times the annual average expenditure of those funds for the previous 3 years, the board will adopt and file with ISB a reserve reduction plan by December 31st. What I'm taking that to mean, and I'm over here smiling, does that mean if you have too much money in the bank that you have to show them how you're going to spend that money? So basically, when you have tons of money, like when I got here, it's not like that anymore, but the money is for the purpose of the children. So you should never treat it like your own bank account and save, but you should never be abusive and just spend it down to ground zero either. So when you have money, you have to make sure that you are maintaining your facilities, which we've done that. There was a little bit of neglect going on where some things hadn't been updated since the 50s. Some things were original structures. We kind of have taken care of that. And now, in order to kind of build the reserves back up to, I think, but I'll refer to Dr. Evans, I think I heard in one of my classes, you want to maintain at least 6 months of reserves. But it's always nice to me to have a little cushion just in case the tax money and things like that don't come on time. But basically, for school districts like Sandridge, that if you're just saving your money, they're going to make you create a plan to show how are you going to start spending that money on students. I can tell you under my leadership, that will not be a problem, spending money on kids. And I have a person here to rein me in when I start dreaming way too big. So there are no more changes there. 4:30, revenue and investments. That's just something for you to read. The only change here is the issue 113, October 23rd, when the board adopts this policy. When the board meets, the only thing that would change here is pretty much the dates. 4:60, purchases and contracts. At the bottom, they've added new language under number 10. So the superintendent shall manage the district's purchases and contracts in accordance with state law, the standards set forth in this policy, and other applicable Board of Education policies. And number 10 says design build contracts must comply with school code. Any new contract for a district administered assessment must comply with school code. So you can't spend the money on things that are not in alignment with the Illinois school code. So if you had a cousin or a friend or somebody said, hey, I think you should try this new great thing. What I've learned in this role, everyone who ever knew you once upon a time, they start calling you like, hey, can I get a meeting with you? And then you're like, sure. And we had a meeting yesterday with 2 people who said they offered a tutoring program, and the assistant principal was so excited. They said it's free. And I said, if Alicia Evans ever taught me anything, it's not free, and all money is not good money. So I came out and I went to talk to him, and I said, hey, you have this tutoring program, and I really would like to partner with you because my kids need tutoring, and I understand that you have this grant and you're going to do it for free. And he said, well, it's not completely free. And I said, well, it's either free or it's not. And then he said, well, I don't want to stand up and have this conversation in the hall. And I said, I don't want to be rude. I'm on a Zoom, but when I heard you were going to do it for free, I wanted to shake your hand and meet you. So make a long story short, he was like, well, if you partner with me, he gets the money, I provide the kids in the space, but he also gets $95 per student that they tutor. So I'm like, are these teachers certified? Are you going to use my teachers? Are you going to pay my teachers? And I said, when our school moved up to commendable, it was a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because you're moving all of your kids. You're showing that their achievement is moving up. But the bad part is once you get out of the bottom, you lose money. So we have a school improvement grant for $100,000 this year. Next year, we don't have that grant. And I'm saying, well, you promised me the money for 4 years. And they said, we didn't know that you go up that fast. And I'm like, I really need that money because we purchased things. I mean, we had some plans. Now I understand why business managers will say when you put something in a grant, if the grant ever goes away, how are you going to fund it? Do you have money in local? I never really understood that. We're just going to pay for it. It's a grant. The money's not going to go away. But in this case, that school improvement grant, I have $100,000 worth of things. And if I'm going to keep those things, I have to figure out how am I going to pay for it. 4:130, free and reduced price food service. If state funding is available for the Healthy Meals for All program, the board will annually determine if it will participate in the program. So during the pandemic, all students, whether they qualified for free or reduced price lunch, were given a free lunch. What's wrong with this? Okay, thank you. Thank you. All students that were attending our school last year were given free and reduced price lunch the year before, and we offered that again this year. And then I was crushed, and I took a public meeting from parents, and some people didn't, understand, but we didn't qualify this year for the after school school improvement grant. And so I had a parent, and I was explaining to her, and I had to apologize because as I was talking, I said, in the state, they've taken away my funding. And so she felt like, as a superintendent, you all promised you would do tutoring earlier. I have evidence. Well, I called the state. I'm going to harass them in this. I once watched a movie, Shawshank Redemption, and Andy wrote this letter every week until finally they gave Andy the money. So I kept calling every week. Then I started sending it every day. Then I had different people. And he said, you don't qualify for the money. And I said, I have to qualify for the money because 99% of my students are on free or reduced price lunch. That was the case when we had 337 students. And we got this beautiful building, and people then knew we were a school with the sign. The other 100 kids that came into this school are now coming from subdivisions, and those kids were not eligible for the free and reduced price lunch. So then I don't know very much about how the formula works. So I called Dr. Evans, and I was like, can you fix this? It's saying that I only have 65% of students that are eligible, but I know it should be 100%. And then she said, it's a formula. There is no way to fix it. The numbers are the numbers. And I'm like, it's got to be something wrong. And there wasn't anything wrong. And he said, I understand you need the money. And I don't doubt that you do. But there are other schools who need the money more. So last year when we were way in the bottom, everyone was saying, we'll give you everything you need to turn the school around. And then we did that. And I don't regret doing that quicker than the timeline. But I didn't want to lose the money. So we got to find other money. There's other money out there. We'll find some. All right. So that's pretty much that. 4:160, environmental quality of building and grounds. This is new language. Pesticides will not be applied on the paved surfaces, playgrounds, or playing fields of any school serving grades K through 8 during a school day or partial school day when students are in attendance for instructional purposes. And so Mr. Hayes is pretty good about that. Whenever they're spraying pesticides, we make sure that our kids are nowhere in sight. They're not on campus. All right. 4:130, Exhibit E, free and reduced price food service meal charge notifications. The following notification is provided. This is new language to all households of students at the beginning of each school year as federally required notification regarding eligibility requirements. This notification is provided to households and students transferring to the district during the year. And then at the bottom, meal charges. So basically, the district will make reasonable efforts to collect charges classified as a delinquent debt, including repeated contacts to collect the amount, and when necessary, requesting that the student's parents apply for meal benefits to determine if the student qualifies for such a benefit under board policy 4:130, free and reduced price services. So in a nutshell, if a kid comes to school and they don't have a lunch and they're not eligible for free or reduced price lunch, we still give them a lunch. No kid in this building will ever go without lunch, but when you give a student a lunch and they're not on your free or reduced price list, you are supposed to keep a record of if they owe you the money, and then you put it on a student statement and you send out these monthly bills to parents and you try or attempt to collect the money. You cannot ever, like some Catholic schools will say, you can't register or your kid can't come to school tomorrow if this tuition is not paid. Public schools cannot do that. If you owe us money, we cannot ever stop you from the things that you are entitled to, which is a free and appropriate public education. I have seen school districts that will say participating in extracurricular events. At the high school level, we usually will say, you don't pay this money, your child can't go to prom, and all of a sudden you get the money. And graduation, you cannot withhold the diploma, but you can withhold the opportunity to participate in the ceremony. So, but people at the high school level, I know they always came up with the money when that was on the table. 5:30 hiring process and criteria. The only thing that has changed, they've updated a reference 820 ILCS 112, which talks about Equal Pay Act of 2003. Previously, that wasn't in there. I know that for our teachers, regardless of your race or your age or position, we have a chart that tells us how much people will make. So in the collective bargaining agreement, it's based off upon your degree and your years of experience. And then for other positions in the building, which we have a contract with United, and so we pay United and United pays their workers. And then on an annual basis, I come to the board with, this is how much we'd like to offer the secretaries. And if a man and a woman is holding the same position, the pay should be the same if the years of experience are equal. So we don't do any levels of discrimination. 5:90 abused and neglected children. They've only stricken part of the language that says the superintendent or designee will display DCFS issued materials. In this day and age, most things are electronic, and they used to send us things, little flyers that you had to pass out, but you don't have to do that anymore. Everything is on your website. 5:190 teacher qualifications. That has not changed. They've just stricken a cross-reference. And so anytime you strike a cross-reference, usually that's because something else replaced the dated language. 5:200 terms and conditions of employment and dismissal. This is referring to teachers, and they just added a legal cross-reference that talks about pumps for nursing mothers and Pregnant Workers Fairness Act. If a woman is breastfeeding, you have to provide a room and time during the day for them to pump, because that's something that they can't control. You can't say, oh, you have to do it on your lunch break or your prep period. You have to provide a room or go in the bathroom. That's unsanitary. You got to provide them a nice place. And then for Pregnant Workers Fairness Act, the same way that you treat other people, you have to treat a person that's pregnant. So if I'm pregnant and I was the cheerleading coach for 10 years, you can't say that I can't be the cheerleading coach, or you can't necessarily choose me because I'm now pregnant. The same rights for all people. Document status review and monitoring, resignations. The only thing that has changed here is that this language was originally adopted in 2017, and it talks about, please refer to the current agreement between the Board of Education of Sandridge, which basically states that if people are resigning, teachers are not supposed to quit during the school year. If you are a non-tenured teacher or a tenured teacher, you can quit right up until the first day of school. Once the school year has started, actually, I think tenured teachers have to give a 30-day notice. A lot of times, and this is what I saw this year, people were resigning. They were waiting until the last minute. They knew they had another job. I share with people, if you don't want to be here and you found something great, I'll write you a letter of recommendation. Just let us know. But of course, people don't trust that you mean what you say, so they won't ever resign. And I wouldn't either until you are board approved by your next district. But it doesn't hurt to give someone the heads up, like, I've applied for a job at TF North. I'm waiting on board approval. The board meeting is on August 1st. then that would allow us the opportunity to post the position, interview, and we would never hire our new person until the other person resigned. But people always, of course, look out for themselves, and they don't do that. So to avoid that this year, we are posting all of our positions, early childhood through grade 8. And for the positions that we know we have available, we're trying to hire now during the prime hiring season, which is usually January through March. And we don't want to wait until the last minute because sometimes the strongest people are not out there when you get to August. 5:220 substitute teaching. They've stricken the language that says 120 days beginning with the 2021-22 school year. So now it's going back. A substitute teacher holding a sub license may teach for any one licensed teacher under contract with the district only for a period not to exceed. During the pandemic, it was 120. Now it's saying 90 days. I understand from the regional office. So for example, Ms. Hines is teaching in the 5th grade room. I think that's disruptive to children to have her there for 90 days, one semester, and then put somebody else in there. So what I've done is I'll write a letter in December to the Intermediate Service Center to say I have Ms. Hines in. Ms. Hines is in the 5th grade classroom, and I would like to retain her. You can do so by writing a letter to the regional superintendent showing I've had this position posted. I've been unsuccessful in finding a high caliber candidate. It's better for my students to keep someone there who cares about kids instead of having a different person every single day. And then at the bottom, it says emergency situations. The board may continue to employ the same substitute teacher in a vacant position. Oh, that's what I just got through telling you. That if I write the letter, but I have to keep writing the letter every 30 days, and then you have to show the position is posted. If you interview a person and you don't feel that person is a good fit for your district, you are not forced to hire a teacher just because they have a certificate. It's better to keep someone like a Emma Hines in a position than hiring someone here that's coming just for the money, or they're really not interested in kids. First year, we were a little desperate because everyone quit and you can't start school in 2 weeks, but we're not desperate anymore. 5:250 leave of absence. Child extended bereavement leave. Unpaid leave from work is available to employees who experience the loss of a child by suicide or homicide. The Child Extended Bereavement Act governs the duration, scheduling, continuity of benefits, and all other terms of leaves. Accordingly, if the district employs 250 or more employees on a full-time basis, an employee is entitled to a total of 12 weeks of unpaid leave within 1 year after the employee notifies the district of the loss. An employee may elect to substitute other forms of leave to which the employee is entitled to. So, God forbid, I hope no one here ever has to experience this. But if you're a teacher and you lose a child due to suicide or homicide, instead of taking an unpaid leave, you can use your personal business days that you have, and you can use your sick leave. Every teacher gets 14 days. I try to tell people, save the days if you really don't need them. Don't just burn them. Save them because you never know when you're going to have an emergency with yourself, an immediate family member, and unfortunately maybe something like this, but hopefully not. Continuing to leave of absences. I'm sorry, I just need to go back one. Leaves to serve as an officer, trustee, or representative. If someone is appointed to a public office, they could take up to 10 days of paid leave per school term for teachers elected to represent a statewide teacher association in federal advocacy work. So National Education Association, and we would try to find not 10 weeks, up to 10 days, I'm sorry. And that language is in our contract. For the COVID-19 paid administrative leave, they've deleted all of that language. When applicable, paid administrative leave related to COVID-19 will be granted to eligible employees in accordance with state law. The last time I checked, if you have COVID, you can take your leave time, but we've been requiring people to use their sick leave when the pandemic first hit. Election day from 2022 to 2024. It identifies all of the holidays that we celebrate. Under other leaves, we've already talked about adding child extended bereavement leave. They've updated a legal reference, and then it used to just be called Family and Medical Leave Act or Child Leave Act, but now they're calling it Family. They deleted the word child and said Family Bereavement Leave Act. 6:15, school accountability. There's only one change to this policy. They just deleted the word district because now it's referencing school improvement plans versus district improvement plans. Under organization and instruction, the only change here is they deleted a cross-reference with the Illinois School Code, but the policy still reads the same. 6:50, school wellness. They've added language, goals for physical activity. Goals for other school-based activities. The goals for school-based activities include the following. Schools will support and promote a healthy eating environment for students. Schools will promote and participate in wellness activities. Schools will offer other school-based activities to support students' health and wellness, including coordinated events and clubs. And that is done through the meal program. We received a grant where our students have equal access to a variety of fruits that are offered during lunch. And most of our foods are baked. Nothing is deep fried in oil. Tastes different, but it's healthy and it's good for them. Under record keeping, they just eliminated the Child Nutrition Act of 1966, and then they added the Richard B. Russell National School Lunch Act, and then they added another legal reference under the Child Nutrition Act of 1966. 6:60, curriculum content. There's one change. In all schools, instruction as determined by the superintendent or designee in the United States, it talks to you about what the various subjects are that you must cover. They just deleted the word and at the bottom they added that we must discuss units on Native American nations, historical and present day, with the focus on urban Native Americans beginning in the fall of 2024. The events of the Native American experience, Native American history within the Midwest and Illinois, and then they have a cross-reference. When we see a policy change like this, someone sent me something, I think it was a board member, and sent me a policy that says superintendent will write all the curriculum maps. A superintendent cannot write all of your curriculum maps. You have to have input from your teachers. And so if anyone is asking, well, where are your curriculum maps? Anyone who's been coming to the board meetings, we didn't have a curriculum. People were doing the very best job that they could with the materials that were available. Now, the Board of Education has invested money in a curriculum, and you usually use time over the summer with a group of teachers by grade level that will write and develop the units of instruction and the curriculum maps, so that if in kindergarten through fifth grade, if you have 2 classrooms of each and 2 teachers are teaching the same thing, pretty much if I have too many kids in teacher A's class and they're going to teacher B's class, they should pretty much be on the same scope, sequence, and pacing. Because you don't have honors, regular, or remedial at the elementary level for K through 5. Now, 6th through 8th is better because you only have, 6th grade is not a part of the junior high model. We don't have the space and we don't have enough teachers. But for 7th and 8th grade, you have 1 science teacher, 1 social studies, 1 English, 1 math, and then they have their specials. And we have integrated Spanish this year as an elective for the students with Mr. Blair. They're absolutely loving that. Okay. library media program. This is new language. The program adheres to the principles of the American Library Association Library Bill of Rights, which indicate that materials should not be prescribed or removed because of partisan or doctrinal disapproval. In a small school like Sandridge, we don't have the FTE head count to have our own full-time librarian. So the law allows us to put a certified person in that position. And then that person has to do library 2 days a week, and they do other things. So they fill in when we need a substitute teacher. They fill in if we need additional para support, pull-out support. That extra person has to go where you need them because unless you're a retired librarian, for the most part, somebody wouldn't take that job just for 2 days a week because it's a hard to fill area. 7.6 residency. They just updated the language that talks about residence of students with disabilities. The residence of a child with a disability is determined in accordance with 105 IL. People want to know that, so explain it a little differently. So I appreciated that feedback before the meeting. Those 9 students may have severe needs, and those students are then placed in speed, echo, or therapeutic day school because I don't have a nurse. We're looking for a nurse. We have an agency, but when kids are in those alternative placements, their needs are so severe, they have an equal right to an education. They just need more supports than this school can offer. I didn't think that I would get through those. I have like less than 5 minutes, and whatever we don't get through, we'll bring them back because for the second reading, that's when the board has a chance to take these policies, read them if you choose to, or do the webinar, the 1 hour webinar, but I'm giving you just the quick skinny. 7:70, attendance and truancy. The only thing that changed is a cross-reference. 7:160, student appearance. The district does not prohibit the right of a student to wear or accessorize the student's graduation attire. So I'm kind of old school, and I like for you to just have a cap and gown on without all that fancy stuff on the hat. And this policy now says that if people want to accessorize it, you cannot stop them from doing that. So this is something that's totally new. But some kids would put like diamonds and all feathers, but it says you cannot discriminate with students' graduation attire with items associated with the student's cultural, ethnic, or religious identity or other characteristics or category protected under the Illinois Human Rights Act of 775, and then there's a cross-reference. So that's good to know before graduation. 7:190, student behavior. The only change to this policy is when students are engaging in academic dishonesty, including cheating, intentionally plagiarizing, using a writing service and or generative artificial intelligence technology in place of an original work. There's this site called Chat GPT, and it'll write a whole whatever for you in the tone of. So if you have an English paper due and you say, write a paper about Now I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings in the tone of Maya Angelou, and within seconds you'll have a paper. And some people in some schools turn that paper in exactly as it is. I know that there are a lot of superintendents and administrators. Somebody needs a letter of recommendation, and you use it. If you do use it, you should read it and change it around. But on the news, just to sidetrack for just a second, there was a man who was suing this artificial intelligence company because his son said, "Dad, this sounds like your book." And the person said, write a letter in the tone of whatever the author's name was. And he was like, oh my God, they're taking direct quotes. This is my work. This is not somebody else's work. And I have played around with that feature, and actually it seems amazing, but now this is saying that's wrong. You can't do that. It's just basically drafting a letter for you. Saying kids can't do that to write papers. Let's see. Upon receiving a report of any of the above, the superintendent or designee shall immediately, required notices. A school staff member shall immediately notify the office of the building principal in the event that he or she observes a person in possession of a firearm. And that includes a real firearm or a look-alike weapon. And we have to report that to the Illinois State Board of Education. There's it's called SIRS, and you have to, is it SIRS, Joe? It's SIRS, and if you have a weapon in your building, you have to document that, call the police department. You don't play with look-alike weapons because you don't know if it's real or not. And that's when we go on a lockdown. Speaking of which, before we move into the next meeting, Sandridge was receiving, someone was calling here every single day with bomb threats. The first time we evacuated the building. The second time we were in a meeting and we were making progress. And I was like, I'm not dealing with this. And then my mind said, you can't do that, Kim. And so we had to evacuate the building, call the police department, notify parents. And whenever you see that, this community is so small, as soon as you see the whole police department coming up here, somebody calls someone and then they put it on Facebook and then we get flooded. Well, the third time I called someone and I was like, is there anything we can do? Because kids are smart. And we assumed they were going on Google Voice, but really they were going on this texting app called Text Now. And that's a way of you sending messages to people and thinking that you're one-upping the system by erasing your messages. When in actuality, it's a fingerprint. And whatever you send someone, even if you delete it, it is not erased. So this time I asked the police chief, I said, hey, my husband is a detective, and he said that you can ask for, and I went to explain, you can get these records. And because I'm tired of this is the third day in a row, it's stopping kids from learning. And he said, we're already on that. And I said, well, thank you. And so we did identify the student. The student is no longer a student here. And I called him in. And I'm going to do a little video on this to educate parents. Once the FBI became involved, if this student, they were able to identify, it's coming from this house right here. Give you the address, and we're like, this is the student. But the father had 4 cell phones. When they come into your house, I said, let me tell you, if you don't tell the truth, if you're a minor, they allow the school to deal with it, provided that they search your locker, you don't have any access to weapons or things like that. They will take any smart devices, watches, iPads, TVs, cell phones, because if you don't admit it's you, then they have to take every single device and figure out, well, who does this belong to? And so I called the boy's father and I said, this is the situation. And I made an announcement to the kids and I said, first day, it was Halloween. I said, okay, somebody's pulling a prank. Something silly is going to happen. Second day, it was frustrating. The third day, I said, I'm really irritated because you're stopping people from learning. And now, I don't know who you are today, but I will know who you are in the very near future. So everyone started looking and going, I think it's this person. And then I offered $100 reward if anyone would tell me if they knew who it was. And so everyone's running up to me. I'm going to get the answer. I want that $100. But the boy's father said, Dr. Knowles, I need you to cover your ears. And he said some choice words. And basically it ended in, you better tell her the truth. And he said, come get everything. I don't care. He said, I want to know if it's my child. And he gave us, the police department, the right to confiscate the phone. And the boy said it was him. And I said, why did you do that? And he said, well, I was mad about something. And it was something very small. It was something sports related, like not getting enough playing time or a coach saying something to him that he didn't like. And so he threatened to kill everyone and to bomb the school. But he said, I really wasn't going to do it. But when you say that, because of all the things going on in the world, we do have to take that seriously. And so he's no longer there. I'm going to stop here because the next one has quite a few changes, but we are 95% through the policies. And so all of those policies will come to you. And I'm stopping with 7:270, administering medicine to students. And I know that's the last half because press only goes through, I believe, either 7 or 8. 8 might be community, 7 is students. So that concludes Committee of the Whole for press policies. Can somebody go over and help her? Yes.
regarding the board semi-annual review of minutes. Okay, thank you. All right, I do have a quick question regarding the board's semi-annual review of minutes. And I know this came up in our Superride conference. There was quite a bit of conversation around this. My question is, how far back does this school have records of minutes? And is there a retention period for which records should be kept at a board of education?
The lawyer shared with me, and I can get him to put this in writing, that you should keep your closed session minutes for a minimum of 17 months. You have, when I started here, there was no tape recorder. So I have the minutes during my tenure, which would cover July of 2022 until present.
Okay.
And you only have minutes for the days in which you actually have had a meeting. And when we go into the meeting and the secretary takes the minutes, you have to take the roll call for who was there. We usually say the date, time, and which, that we're entering into closed session. We give the recorder to the secretary, and then the secretary transcribes it, and we have them uploaded in a folder during her tenure, since she's been here since April. And then they go in a file, and we keep them under lock and key until the board asks for them.
Okay, because from my understanding, the board can go back those 17 months to receive.
Absolutely. Yep. Just to note for the board, during the year and a half that I've been here, in some schools, you really have juicy things that you're discussing in closed session. The only thing we ever talked about in the past was personnel report and who was being hired. And then we did have one situation involving a teacher. We haven't had any expulsions or discipline. We had one situation of one discipline and one teacher, and that's it. But we do have the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for loaning me
I'm
that.
going to ask for a motion to adjourn. Oh, are there other questions? I have a question. Okay, sure. The curriculum of the Native Americans in fall 2024. Can you hear me?
I can.
Now, is that a curriculum that's, how does the state monitor it? And how will it be implemented into the school?
So we have a history teacher at the 7th and 8th grade level, and then that person will be given, these are the units of study, and then the person is given an opportunity to incorporate that. As far as how do they monitor on an annual basis, the Intermediate Service Center comes over. I've never had them ask for curriculum. They usually will ask for personnel files and things of that nature. I've never had them I don't know how they monitor if you're doing it or not, but how a school monitors it is looking at the lesson plans and to make sure that you have a curriculum map to address whatever the area is. And you have to give a teacher time to plan for those unit of studies. And then when you go through, you look to see which grade level are they referencing. And then you incorporate it into the curriculum. You're welcome.
Questions from board members? What about the board members online? Questions?
Are they there?
Okay,
have to.
I am going to ask for a motion to adjourn from the committee of the whole, but I'm also going to ask for a 5-minute break. So first, let's do the motion to adjourn from the committee of the whole. Roll call, please.
Ms. Newton? Ms. Lee? Yes. Ms. Gray? Mr. Colwell?
Yes.
Ms. Kruger?
Yes.
Ms. Guthrie?
Yes.
President Jenkins Brown?
Yes. Okay. Committee of the whole adjourned. We're going to take a 5-minute break, so we will return back at 7:03. Roll call, please.
Ms. Gray. Ms. Newton. Ms. Guthrie.
Here.
Ms. Kruger.
Here.
Mr. Colwell. Ms. Lee. Here. President Jenkins Brown.
Here.
Roll call is complete.
Thank you. Will everyone stand to join me for the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. All right, we're going to start with agenda item number 4, principal's report. Ms. Polk. Thank you.
Can you make sure our other two board members on? Okay, so can you pass it? Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, school board and community.
Good evening.
I am here to present our principal's report tonight. So first, let's get started with saying some congratulations to our awesome students. So if you are here and you have been awarded the prestigious honor of Student of the Month, please stand. So I'd like to read off all of the names, and when I call your name, just give a wave, please. All right, from Ms. Ginnivan's kindergarten class, Kaylani Liddell. Ms. Wingard's class, Mayoni Lyman. Ms. Hell's first grade class, Brianna Mackert. Mr. Harris's first grade class, Natamarian Full-Wiley. Ms. Horoski's first grade class, Madison Bryant. Ms. Heller's second grade class, Cherish King. Ms. Jones' second grade class, Caden Triplett. Ms. Morris's third grade class, Grayson Bates. Ms. Redmersky's third grade class, Morgan Bryant. Ms. Aldridge's fourth grade class, Julian Collier. Ms. Bristow's fourth grade class, Stephen Harris. Ms. Conrad's fifth grade class, Jameer Dillard. Ms. Hines's fifth grade class, Elijah Clark. Ms. Breeze's sixth grade class, Maya Hall. Ms. Doty's sixth grade class, Jamarius Kelly. Mr. Adamson's seventh grade class, Jaylene Cruz. Dr. Burt's seventh grade class, DeMarcus King. Mr. Richardson's eighth grade class, Tatiana Holloway. And Ms. Winfrey's eighth grade class, Taylor Parks.
Yay!
Congratulations, students. The next recognition goes to special staff members. So our staff member of the month is Mr. Corey Horton. He is our paraprofessional. He's been with us for 2 years. Last year, he worked in the gymnasium, and this year he worked with our littles with Ms. Wingard in the kindergarten class. He's an amazing asset. He's truly awesome. And then we have some attendance. Oh, thank you, Doctor. Thank you so much, Ms. Guthrie. And we also have some attendance acknowledgements for staff. Mr. Adamson has not missed a day of work this month. And then we have an award for the best use of Bloxy, which is our internet safety system, and that award went to Ms. Breeze. Our enrollment. Right now, we have 447 students on campus. And like Dr. Nall spoke to earlier, we have the 9 that are off campus, but they're at either our co-op for speed or therapeutic day schools. We just don't have the means to be able to educate them properly. Now, classroom attendance. We've been doing attendance contests. And so last month, Dr. Bird's 7th grade class won with the best attendance for the whole month. And I also included this month's ranking. So tomorrow we will have a final count. We give small items like bags of chips or candy to the winning class just to encourage them to come to school every day. So far we have Ms. Morris's class in first place with 95.66% attendance. Second place is Ms. Conrad's 5th grade class with 94%. And third is Mr. Richardson's 8th grade class with 94%. And so our discipline, that's always a deep breath, right? However, we have been getting better, which is awesome. So our referrals in the month of November, we were at 72. And keep in mind, these are 2 short months. However, we got that down to 43 in the month of December. We also noticed that only 6 students had 2 referrals. The other students, the other 37, only have 1 referral, which means that our interventions are working. The phone calls at home are working. The parent conferences are working. So we still have a lot to work on. However, something's going right. So we want to keep this trend going. Or maybe it's the fact that they get to pie me with tomorrow. Please be gentle, students. You know I love you all. All right, so to break down a bit of where some things are happening. So I actually included the grade level on this particular chart. So we see, oh, that's okay. Most of our referrals are actually in 7th grade at 25.6%. The next group, or the next highest group, will be 5th grade at 16.3%, and then it's a tie for 6th and 4th at 14%. Most of the infractions are disrespectful or disruptive behavior. Disrespect came in at 20.9% of referrals, which are roughly about 9 of the 43 listed. And then physical harassment, unfortunately, is about 7 referrals. What I'm finding, a lot of students like to top other students, and that causes issues. So they're doing little stuff like this, and we consider that physical harassment because no one wants to be topped. However, it is not a fight because 2 students are not engaging. So those talks are actually working as well because we're trying to teach them, use your words, tell people to stop. You are in my close proximity. Please move away from me or go talk to an adult. That can help. So let's get to some fun stuff. So I saw the 8th graders' eyes get a little wide here. We're talking about graduation, but first up, our kindergartners. So last year we had a very successful kindergarten graduation, and we hope to make it bigger and better even this year. So their date is going to be Friday, May 24th. They have a cap and gown, and we are planning some type of spring field trip for them, possibly the zoo, maybe Navy Pier, something fun for the students to look forward to. We're also going to do some spring fundraisers to make sure that we have funds to cover. Right now, we're looking at about a price of $40 per student. Now, 8th grade graduation. So we have a couple of very fun activities. So our pin and ribbon will be happening on May 8th, and that is an award ceremony. Each of the students will have an opportunity to talk about their hopes, their dreams, their aspirations. They will also get rewarded for their work in all of their academic classes and if they were part of any extracurricular activities. The 8th grade luncheon, also known as the Navy Pier boat trip, it will be on the Spirit of Odyssey, and the price is coming in at about $73 per student. The graduation field trip will be to Springfield. So it's a historically based field trip. As a person that lives in Illinois, I think it's important to go to our capital, and they're going to be able to experience that this year. The next field trip is a physics day, which is at Great America. Now, it's math and science into learning about roller coasters. I love roller coasters. I was the person that always got the flash pass and told the kids, you got to go this way because I have a job and I can pay for the flash pass. I love you all. However, this time they're actually learning how they work. I included a short video. This is of a Great America, I believe, in California, but I want to at least give you an idea of what this looks like. That's okay. It's some music going, so there. So they're building things. Notice that's duct tape. There we go. And now look what they're going to do with that box and duct tape. And it's a pretty amazing that they're actually floating, right? That's okay. But just to give you a little taste. And of course, ours will look a lot different because we're not going to Lake Michigan to do that. We're looking at the estimated cost for our students to be about $200. That does include cap and gown, tassels, diploma cover, also the trips. Our graduation field trip to Springfield and Physics Day should be able to be covered in grants because they are educational in nature, which will also help with the cost. Not to mention, we raised over $200 in fundraising funds, I guess, with our music night just on Tuesday. So that was awesome. Miss Winfrey was out there selling hot chocolate, and we were hustling raffle tickets. And in fact, one of our parents for Student of the Month, she won. So she was not able to make it tonight, though. And we raffled off 3 $25 gift cards. One to Starbucks, one to Amazon, and one to Target. And so we've been doing a couple of things to have fun this month. And one of those things are our kindness challenge. This started on National Kindness Day back in November. And students received a link every time. And the link is just a paper link, and it kind of staples into a chain. And the idea is that every time that someone does something kind in your classroom, you're adding to your link. So tomorrow, all classes will bring their links down, we'll count them out, and we'll see who wins. And I will be sponsoring a lunch party for the winning class. So I'm going to be kind to them. We just finished our MAP testing. In fact, we have maybe about 5 more students to try to get through tomorrow for makeup. And we are going to be analyzing that data over winter break. We also had the NED show come out. So the NED show stands for Never Give Up, Encourage Others, and Do Your Best. This was an assembly created or scheduled by Ms. Jordan, our wonderful social worker, and it included students K through 5th grade. In the NED show, they also sell yo-yos as a way to raise funds. And when we raise those funds, it goes to the next school that signs up for the NED show. So it's almost like a pay it forward type situation. Unfortunately, Ms. Jordan has been out sick. And so we're going to extend those yo-yo sales until 2024. Thank you for all of those who attended our music program for the winter. I think it went awesome. Thank you so much. We had our showcase for kindergartners through 5th grade with 6th grade helpers and our cheerleaders to perform as well. There was a video of the 3rd graders doing If I Were a Reindeer, What Would I Do? I love that song. That was my jam. So unfortunately, we couldn't get the sound, so we're going to try to post that to our website. And then we have our Holiday Spirit Week. It's been fun watching all the kids dress up. Monday, we wore pajamas. On Tuesday, it was Character Day. Wednesday, Holiday Colors. Today was Twinkling Thursday, and Friday, tomorrow, is Ugly Sweater Day. If you don't have an ugly sweater, create one. And is that it? Oh, and then we included some pictures. So this is the NED show. These are some pictures with our MC, Cherish Jones, and our cheerleaders on the other side. Wonderful student council members with the class getting ready to perform. That's Ms. Winfrey and Dr. Burtz with the hot chocolate stand. The Grinch, which was Miss Liz. I couldn't help it. But that was awesome. That looks like some fifth graders over there. And then this is Miss Jones's class, and they dressed up for their character day. And then we just have a couple of upcoming events, especially with it being the end of the quarter tomorrow. So parents can expect to receive their report cards being sent home via email. Winter break is from Christmas Day, December 25th, up until January 8th. Students return on January 9th. Staff members will return on the 8th to do our professional development for our new student information system. Any questions? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Pope. And once again, congratulations to our students and our staff. All right, next on the agenda, we have 5 action items for consent agenda. Before I go through these items, are there any items that the board would like me to remove? Okay. All right, so may I have a motion to approve? Oh,
We could hear her. She's
right.
Miss Gray is talking.
6.2, approval of bills.
Okay, so we have board member Shante Gray asking to remove the, okay, approval of bills. Anything else?
Vote on all those items individually.
Did she say we don't?
She would like to vote on all of those items individually.
Yeah. Oh, all the items individually. All right. All right, let's start with the approval of payroll, $348,585.68. May I have a motion for approval?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? I can't see the-
Oh, we couldn't hear him. He wasn't talking to the mic.
I
Mr. Caldwell. Mr. Caldwell.
Oh,
I want to make a motion that we approve the salary. Can I get a second?
okay, may I update that motion? Mr. Carwell, if you don't mind, if you can motion for the salary for the amount. You can repeat that and just say the amount, the $348,500.
$348,585.
All right, any discussion? And I can't see what's being said. All right, so, okay. Okay, motion carried. Next, 6.2, may I have a motion for approval of the bills for 506, oh, I'm sorry, I am so sorry. May I have a roll call, please, for 6.1 approval?
Mr. Colwell.
Yes.
I hear a yes. Ms. Newton. Ms. Lee. Yes. I hear a yes. Ms. Kruger.
Yes.
I hear a yes. Ms. Gray. Yes. I hear a yes. Ms. Guthrie.
Yes.
I hear a yes. President Jenkins Brown.
Yes.
I hear a yes. Motion carried.
Motion carried. All right. Next on the agenda, 6.2, may I have a motion of bills for $563,597.22.
Discussion.
May I have a motion, please? Did a motion first.
I'll make a motion to approve the bills.
Second,
I second it.
any discussion? Okay, it sounds like Ms. Gray would like discussion.
So it's a challenge to approve things when you don't see invoices, when you don't see what these things are. If we are going to submit the, board docs, it's helpful to actually have those invoices. What these items are for is on the registry, but not actually seeing invoices, is not comfortable. It's particularly for me to say that I approve these bills.
You want me to repeat?
I can repeat what she said. I heard her.
Okay.
Ms. Gray said it's very hard to approve, the approval of bills without seeing the actual invoices, being uploaded to board docs. In board docs, the ledger is uploaded to tell you who the vendor is and the dollar amount. But Shantae, correct me if I'm wrong, you're saying you'd like to see the itemization of exactly what was purchased.
Yes, any invoices that were used, any documentation that was submitted for these dollar amounts, whoever the vendor is. I'm accustomed to seeing them with our previous superintendent. That information was sent readily available in board docs. And it's difficult sometimes to actually stop in the school to actually look at your bill list. That's when it could easily be scanned in and submitted as well. So I'm gonna always not agree until I see what these things are.
Okay, can you wait 1 second? Jaime is going to try to, you give him a minute, he's gonna try to raise the volume because the volume seems to be going somewhere else. Yep. Okay. All right.
Try
I'm
now.
assuming Ms. Gray has completed her statement, and we do have a question. Now, please.
Itemization has never only, the invoices themselves have never been on board books. But the book with the invoices is always available in our district office. As soon as it's listed on board books, it's available for us to come look at.
That's not correct, Janelle. I've seen invoices and board books. Our packets were normally very thick. And so seeing that we're not printing those packets out any longer, at least if we can scan those documents in, that will be very helpful.
Whatever date and time works for you, I can make myself available for you to see any board book with the invoices. Our business manager said it's very difficult to scan in those. Sometimes you have receipts that are like crinkled. There are so many sheets, it would be probably, that book is a very large 4 to 5 inch binder, and in a small school district, we don't have the manpower to have one person sitting there trying to reprint and scan. There has to be a level of trust in the people who are actually paying the bills, which goes through a process in alignment with policy. But if normal traditional hours don't work for you, I work for the entire board. So if you have a date and time that you need to see the book or want to see the book, we can always work with you to make that happen. But it's very difficult to scan all of that documentation in there. And I've gone through your previous board books, and that information was not included in there. But we have nothing to hide. So if you're ever available to come on site, we're happy to show those to you. And we do provide the level of detail in the ledger or the description of what is purchased. And it shows you the dollar amount.
Oh, okay.
If I can recall correctly, if I have seen invoices and board books, and I've kept all, I'll pull some out as a matter of fact. I can move on to vote for this.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Gray. All right, roll call, please.
Ms. Newton. Ms. Guthridge.
Yes.
I hear a yes. Ms. Gray. No.
I hear a no. Ms. Kruger?
Yes.
I hear a yes. Mr. Colwell?
Yes.
I hear a yes. Ms. Lee? Yes. I hear a yes. President Jenkins Brown?
Yes.
I hear a yes. Motion is carried.
Motion carried. All right, now to our next agenda item, approval of minutes. May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
I hear a yes. Ms. Kruger?
Yes.
I hear a yes. Ms. Guthrie?
Yes.
I hear a yes. Mr. Colwell?
Yes.
I hear a yes. Ms. Gray?
Yes.
I hear a yes. Ms. Newton? President Jenkins Brown?
Yes.
I hear a yes. Motion carried.
Motion carried. Okay, on to the next agenda item, 6.4. May I have a motion to approve for the approval of personnel? Motion. For the approval of personnel.
I want to make a motion to approve the personnel.
Second. Any discussion?
So yes, I have some discussion.
Okay.
It was sort of difficult to actually hear in the committee of the whole. I'm not sure if there was discussion on who the new hire was, if any information came out about the resignation for the Martinez Sutton. Did any information come out about those? Because I didn't hear anything.
So for the personnel report, we offer clubs and activities. In alignment with our collective bargaining agreement, teachers are offered those jobs first, paraprofessionals and secretaries second. All of our internal stipends are for work that has been completed. We now offer stipends twice a year. Any fall stipend is paid in December on the last payroll in December. Any spring stipend is paid on the last payroll in May. The board had one resignation of a paraprofessional, Martinez Sutton, and his last day with us will be on the 22nd of December.
And Asia Brown, can you give some background on this new hire?
Yes, we are hiring a health aide to work in the district's nursing office, and then we have an agency nurse who will be on site once a week to assist. We haven't had a school nurse for the most part of the year. We've been working with an agency here and there, and the health aide will be responsible for providing ice packs to students when students vomit, giving them crackers and water, taking temperatures. The person would be a certified nursing assistant, and then calling parents, assisting the agency nurse with maintaining records and things of that nature.
And the agency nursing staff or company, what's the cost of that to our district?
The cost of the agency, they only bill us 4 hours, and the board approved that contract a few months ago. I don't have that information on hand, but I can get that to you as part of the Friday update. They charge us an hourly fee, and then it's based off of the number of hours that they work. We are decreasing the number of hours of the RN nurse to the days where we have IEPs. So they'll be working once a week. I know that it's less than $500 a day for the agency, and I'm pretty sure it's not at a level of 6, but I want to be sure so I can get you that information as part of the Friday update.
And then your health aide is a licensed CNA.
That is correct.
And this is allowed by the state?
Yes.
To actually have a CNA on staff assisting students?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes, I have a question, Dr. Knowles. On this health aid, is she going to be passing any medications to the students?
We have a few students that take medication in the absence of a nurse. An administrator gives the medicine in alignment with whatever is on the bottle, and we have to sign a log and date the log. When we have the nurse that's here from the agency nurse gives it. In the absence of an agency nurse, the Illinois School Code allows an administrator to give medicine in alignment with what is on their health form and what is on the bottle. We have detailed instructions that tells us the dosage, the amount, whether it's QD, every day, how many pills or whatever, and then that medication is counted. You're giving the student the medicine, and you're signing off on that. Not best practices, but in the state of Illinois and across the country, we have a severe shortage of licensed registered nurses with a BSN. Last year, we did hire an associate's degree nurse, and we do keep the position posted. We've interviewed, people accept the position, and then when they look at the first paycheck, they usually go back to the hospitals. They don't want to work in a school because the money is not as lucrative as a hospital.
Well, actually, there are retired nurses, and we have some in our community now that could be interested, so.
If you know any of those people, you can give them my direct phone number. We welcome the help of any board member. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Is there any other discussion? Okay. Roll call, please, on approval of personnel.
Ms. Guthrie,
Yes.
Ms. Gray,
No.
Ms. Newton, Ms. Kruger,
Yes.
I hear a yes. Ms. Lee, yes. I hear a yes. Mr. Colwell,
Yes.
I hear a yes. President Jenkins Brown,
I will recuse myself due to the fact that I do know Asia Brown.
motion carries.
Motion carried. Last on the action item consent agenda is trial balances report. May I have a motion to approve the trial balance report?
I make a motion to approve the trial balance report.
Second?
Okay.
Any discussion? No discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Kruger,
Yes.
I hear a yes. Ms. Lee, yes. I hear a yes. Ms. Gray,
Abstain.
I hear abstain. Ms. Guthrie,
Yes.
I hear a yes. Mr. Colwell,
Yes.
I hear a yes. Ms. Newton, President Jenkins Brown,
Yes.
I hear a yes.
Thank you. On to the next agenda item. May I have a motion to approve the Presence Psychological Services contract? Motion? Have your motion? A motion?
I make a motion to approve the Presence Psychological Services contract.
Any seconds?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion?
Yes, discussion. So.
One
before
second,
we
please.
actually-
One second, please. Ms. Guthrie had her hands up first, and we'll go to you next. Ms. Guthrie?
Because is this new, new information, or you actually haven't looked at the contract? I would like for our superintendent to elaborate.
2 months ago, our school psychologist resigned from the position. The position has been posted. The district doesn't want to be out of compliance. We have special education, reevaluations, and new case studies. We had interviewed several agencies, and last month we found an agency in Indiana. That agency worked with us but did not meet the needs of the students. They wanted to work primarily virtually. And so the assistant superintendent for educational services thought that this would be better to have a site on site, because when you're testing for a new case study evaluation, you need to come into classrooms, you need to observe the students. There are parent interviews. After interviewing several agencies, the recommendation is Present Psychological Services, and they offer a variety of services. So they list for you, these are all the things that we can do. We have an increase in the number of students that are Spanish speaking. So when you facilitate a psychological evaluation for a student that's non-English, the test is offered in the student's home language. And so this company would have bilingual psychs. At the bottom part, they're telling you what they charge per dollar. We've asked for a contract allowance from the board not to exceed $30,000. Last year we had a psychologist on site part-time, and we didn't go over the $30,000. So we know that we can utilize this company to do the psychological services that are needed in English and Spanish. The parent meetings provide support for the students in the SLP program. Those are your students who are being tested that have autism, and a few students are demonstrating very aggressive behavior, and this agency can also give us equal access to a behavioral analyst. They ask for a minimum commitment of $12,000 based upon the number of students that we have in special education, the number of new evaluations, and case study returning 3-year reevaluations. We know that we will exceed the $12,000. They don't charge you that up front. They're telling you what the billable hours are, and we only use them. They only come on site at our invitation. So they're telling us what the price is, but we kind of control that price point by inviting them in where you have a reeval. We know how many hours it would take to do an initial, but it also depends on the student. They offer quite a few services, but we have an OT person. Although they offer those services, we don't have to use it. So primarily, they're being used to meet the needs of students through reevaluations and case studies. Case study evaluation.
So
Ms. Gray, please. Your question?
So I have a few questions. Okay, how did you come to know about this organization? Have you ever worked with them or know schools to work with them before?
No, so Dr. Newman researched, as a director that's experienced, you call all of the agencies, and there are quite a few that schools are using throughout the state of Illinois, and then you just contact them to see if they have availability, and then we conduct interviews to make sure that the person would be, or sometimes it's more than one person, that it would be a good benefit, a good fit for the district. So we don't know them personally, but we know that they are highly qualified and come highly recommended to effectively meet the needs of our students. Without a school psychologist, we would then be out of compliance with special education. So this is very important.
And we did have one before, and was that you? In times I can't quite remember. You recommended that we cancel with that organization and actually hire a school psychologist as an employee.
Yes, we always want to hire. You always want your own person, but as stated earlier in the committee of the whole, Right now, people can write their own tickets to go anywhere in the universe when you are an educator. And unfortunately, people without tenure don't have skin in the game. And sometimes people are, hopping to the next district for more money.
So what was wrong with us utilizing the other company that we worked with before?
That would be a discussion for closed session. I cannot disclose that in open session.
Okay. I don't mind going back to closed session too after this. I'm curious to know because it looks like they are billing for quite a bit of like minute items. I'm not gonna say they're minute, but they're definitely detailed. And you're basically saying that for sure we won't go over $30,000 for the amount of services and hours that we need for our students.
That is correct.
And you know this based upon the last contract that you had or the number of hours that the previous psychologist used? How do you know that?
So you utilize a formula. It's based off of the number of students you have. You look at the number of new case study evaluations, and then you multiply that by the hourly amount that it's going to take for an evaluation for a new case study. You use a multiplying factor times the dollar amount plus times the number of students, and then it gives you a set dollar amount. And then we've added in case a few extra dollars in case we have any unique cases that may come to the district. And then with some of the students that have the aggressive behavior, all of this funding is not coming out of local dollars. We built this entire contract into one of our grants. So this is saving the district this is something we're required to do, but we're not utilizing local dollars. We are paying for this out of the Elevating Special Educators Grant.
Is that a federal or a state grant?
I'm not sure. I can get that answer I can get an answer to you on the Friday update. We got it from the Illinois State Board of Education. So I would say, I'm assuming it's a state grant, but I'll get that answer from the State Board of Education.
Elevating education, yeah, that one is a state one. Okay.
Okay.
Just seems like they're very detailed in this commitment of 12,000, but you're saying no more than 30, right? So, okay, thank you.
Sure. All right. So, I have a roll call, please. On the motion to approve presence psychological services contract.
Ms. Gray,
Abstain.
Ms. Newton, Mr. Colwell,
Yes.
I'm hearing yes. Ms. Kruger,
Yes.
I'm hearing yes. Ms. Lee, abstain. Ms. Guthrie,
Yes.
I hear a yes. And Ms. Jenkins Brown,
Yes.
I hear a yes.
Motion carried. Okay, next on the agenda is a motion to approve the tax levy and resolution. May I have a motion? Oh, you know what? Because we did talk about this a little bit. So before I take a motion, let's go ahead and just, for board purposes, because there's been a lot of questions. Could we do a small presentation on the a levy, just to clear up some questions I think that were brought up even earlier today?
Presenting is our consultant extraordinaire, Dr. Lee Shabbat.
Thank you. You're welcome. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Okay. Do you want to? Okay. And you're clicking. You're clicking. Okay. So I wanted to reintroduce you to the timetable for the levy. Because the board meeting is today, the levy is due within a matter of days. And so I'm going to talk to these next couple of slides, and then I will take your questions, if that helps. So it is important to note that the levy generates 37% of our revenue, which is about $2.6 million. Evidence-based funding is higher than the property tax revenue, but it is significant. And so as we are processing our levy, keep in mind that the levy is the request for property tax dollars, and that you generally don't get what you've requested. As it goes through the processing, it's generally less than what you've asked for. The idea with the levy is that you want to ask for as much as you can so that you don't leave anything on the table. If you ask for less than you would be entitled to receive, you will not get the extra. The other thing to remember about your levy is that every year it compounds. So for example, if you don't ask for that dollar, it won't compound. So when you school districts, some of the more affluent school districts some years ago, they would hold their levy steady. And that would mean that the tax levy would not grow. So what that means is that in the following year, because your threshold is now less than it was before, when you begin to compound on that, you lose that money indefinitely. You can't recover it. So those are some of the main ideas about property tax levies. So what I did is I did pull a tax bill just so that we can talk about that a little bit. I know that levies are a tricky sort of subject for folk because each person that pays property taxes can feel it when property tax time comes. And so as members of a board of education or a taxing body, you're very sensitive to the fact that we're asking for increases in property taxes. So as I look at, I just pulled a tax bill. Actually did this before with a different property when I was here before, but we didn't talk about it. So as you know, taxes are in categories. So you have your miscellaneous taxes, school taxes, municipal taxes, and you have your Cook County taxes. So when I look at a property tax bills overall, the samples that I've taken, school taxes, they are about 70 to 72% of the property tax bill. And generally, elementary schools will get about half of that, followed by the high school, and then here would be Prairie State College. And that is generally how it is in most school districts. But you also have other municipalities that contribute to the total overall tax bill. And as we think about levies and the amount that we're levying, we have to keep in mind that we are levying our taxes, and so are these other municipalities. And as some municipalities try to hold their taxes steady, other municipalities will continue to ask for their increase. So just keep in mind that the levy is the request for property tax revenue. And if for some reason a school district decides that they're not going to levy any taxes, that 37% that we talked about, that approximately $2.6 million, will just go away. Now, I want you to also keep in mind that we have estimated property tax revenue in order to complete our deficit reduction plan that we approved a couple months ago. And so when we did that, we estimated all of our revenues, and we also estimated some reductions to expenditures. And so these dollars are very important in making sure that we meet the expectations of the deficit reduction plan. Along with the fact that as the president of the board said to me some months ago about grant revenue declining, that is happening. We talked about a couple of grants that we're not going to receive anymore. So as our resources are declining, we have to make sure that we are capturing as much revenue as we can. And so this levy that we're talking about actually is 4.99% over the last year's extension, which is about $137,000 difference over what we collected or what our extension was last time. Any questions for me?
Yes.
Okay.
So when we talk about the levy and we're maximizing the percentage of the levy, which I've seen previous levy percentages from the school over the past maybe 5 or 8 years, and it did not max the 5%, and they still had a healthy budget. Knowing that we're on a deficit reduction plan, what deficits have we implemented? Deficit spending have we implemented so that we will never get to a point where we have to maximize the levy or go over the 5% or ask taxpayers for more money? Because we understand that the grants are dwindling away, but again, has our spending started to dwindle down as well? And that also relates to certain positions that were hired through those grants.
Yes. So first, I want to talk about the language that is being used regarding maximizing the levy. So there, as you know, probably there is the way we handle levies is we have to either publish that we're going to ask for more than the 4.99%, or we stay within the 4.99%. So we have decided that we're going to levy up to the maximum without doing the publication for the truth in taxation, but it is possible to go beyond the 4.99% as a request for levy, which is known as a balloon levy. And that is done sometimes if there's new property coming on in the area, or if there's some other thing where you can access that property tax revenue that very first time. So here, what we're doing is we're being conservative, because if we levy which is the question on the table right now, the 4.99, if we're not eligible to receive those dollars, we won't get them. So if we look at the history of the levy versus the extension, we will probably find that in those cases where we did levy up to the 4.99, we didn't receive the entire amount, because after the calculations are done, it may be lower, maybe 3.2, 3.1, 2.1. It kind of depends on what is happening at that time. But keep in mind, if we're not eligible to receive, we can levy $1 billion. I mean, people will be mad at us, but but we won't receive it if we're not entitled to receive it. On your other side of your question, which talks about the deficit reduction plan, typically we have to look at both sides, because ultimately the growth of revenue is not going to be large enough to impact the expenditures that we'll probably be seeing. So when we look at CPI, for example, it has been somewhere around 6.5, 7.1. The increase in revenues at the 4.99% is not going to be enough to catch up with that. And when you consider all of the other revenue sources that come in and out, with the grants coming in and out, evidence-based funding is increasing a little bit, so that is going to help us. We do have to attack the other side of the equation, which are the expenditures. And in our deficit reduction plan, we did talk about the reduction of staff as one of the ways to get to that, and also the elimination of some of the expenses that we have. When we when we got to the place where we are right now, some of the things we did were one-time expenses. And so what that means is that we had funds that we had built up in our reserve, and we had these one-time expenses, and they are actually hitting in these 2 fiscal years, which is why a deficit reduction plan is necessary, so that we can ensure the Illinois State Board of Education that this isn't a consistent way of spending down our money so that we are able to maintain ourselves.
So in the next couple of fiscal years, the reduction of employee expenses payroll, what's the timeline, and has that been mapped out as to how we're going to and when and what positions are going to be eliminated so that we can be in line? Because if I'm hearing you correctly, it will take us 2 years to get out of the deficit reduction spending.
The deficit reduction spending is actually a 5-year plan, which includes the next year that we're in. So we have up until that time to reduce the deficit, but it can happen prior to that time, depending on the actions that we take. So when we talk about reducing staff, yes, we've had that discussion. Yes, we know who those people could be. But the other thing we have to watch, in your hearing earlier, we talked about the number of students that are coming. So if students are coming, we have to make sure that we can accommodate those students with the correct number of staff. So ideally, we have increased students, we'll generate a little bit more revenue, but it may not be enough to offset the additional expense that we're going to have. So when we're looking at staff, we always have to be careful that we are still, when your school is growing, that we have enough teachers, for example, to teach all of those students in the various grade levels that they're going to be in.
So I have a question, and I want you to please be as brutal as you possibly can. Response. The bottom line is, the question that I had in my head when I read over the tax levy is, what is the impact of not improving the tax levy, and how will that impact our children in education? So if you're telling me that if we don't sign off on this tonight, we will not have enough money to cover our expenditures,
That is true.
then is there an alternative to paying the expenditures if we don't go this route?
Well, there is an alternative, and that would be to drain the rest of your reserve. And if you did that, we would be probably talking about ISB coming in and taking over.
Okay, that's good enough for me. Are there any
I have
other
another
questions?
question.
Sure.
So when we look at our staffing and our staffing needs, are we in line with the state as it relates to administrator to student ratio?
I will have to take a look at those numbers to see what the state is versus what we are.
Well, I'm looking at it right now.
Okay. What do you
right
have?
now we're 104. Well, we're 129 to 3 to 1, and the state is 140 to 6 to 1.
Okay. So, as we are looking at reductions in staffing, that would be an area that we would attack. And that would be generally because you always want to make those changes as far away from the classroom as possible. So that would also, we would also be looking at other ancillary staff if those staff existed.
Okay.
Along with
I'm sorry.
along with a combination of other expenditure cuts. So, as you know, when you're looking to make the greatest impact on expenditures, you're going to look at salaries and benefits because they are the largest part of your budget. However, there are also other areas that we can look at because we won't be able to get to what we're trying to get to just with salaries.
Okay, are there any other questions or discussion from any other members on the board? Okay, I did not do a motion because we wanted to give time to have some explanation regarding this, so now I'm about to put this into motion. I have a motion to approve the tax levy and resolution. Second, please. And we've already had our discussion. Roll call, please.
Okay, Ms. Lee, yes. I hear a yes. Ms. Guthrie,
Yes.
I hear a yes. Ms. Newton. Mr. Colwell,
Yes.
I hear a yes. Ms. Gray,
Abstain.
Dang, Ms. Kruger,
Yes.
I hear a yes. President Jenkins Brown,
Yes.
I hear a yes.
All right, before we go into public comments, we didn't have a new business.
On.
All right, what I noticed before we go into public comments, we did not have, I think what was, missed the new business and old business. So, is there any new business that needs to be discussed? Okay, any old business that needs to be discussed?
Actually, yeah, that's great that you caught that. I recall, having an email sent out about agenda items that we wanted to, myself, Member Lee and Member Caldwell wanted on the agenda as it relates to homework. And it was removed, and it was really discussion only. We can't, we are a board of 7. We can't we can't eliminate other board members for wanting to actually discuss very specific and important items, things of discussion that we have concerns with. Moving forward, that shouldn't happen again.
So I have a comment. You probably have a comment too, but do you want to make your comment first, or I can make my comment? It doesn't matter.
Yes, Miss Gray, you were the only one who, you said that you were giving me a directive to put the homework on the agenda, and board member Colwell brought it to my attention, and we had a meeting because he wanted to do a presentation. And I shared with him, per the board's legal counsel, whenever you are making changes to teachers' working conditions, it requires a discussion with the teachers union first. Mr. Colwell said that he understood that, and he told me to let's ice it for several months. And I shared with Mr. Colwell, he brought a plan. He had some really great ideas, and we welcome the input from the board, but I also have to have teachers at that meeting, students at the meeting, parents at the meeting, and then the board, when we talk about bringing together like our in-school educational committee, we would ask for, are there volunteers from the board that would want to serve? Miss Lee never put in writing that she wanted that as a discussion item, but she did ask the question, hey, I was also interested in terms of why was that removed, and I gave a very lengthy response. My initial response was, hey, board, this is being removed. And then I understood that there was some discussion, and I talked to Mr. Colwell, and I talked to the president, and I said, let me share with the board what their attorney has said. So I didn't want to offend my teachers union, but I do agree with you that it is important. I agree with Mr. Colwell, and I appreciate the questions, but there were not 3 people that put in a written request for that. There was only one written request, Mr. Colwell, who then rescinded his request after I explained my why, and to tell him we're not dropping the ball. That's just a conversation for the spring. It's not, because we have a policy and we are giving homework, but he said he had some great ideas, and we're going to bring that back in the spring.
And
Yeah,
so my comment, one second, my comment on that is, Ms. Kowa, I do appreciate you bringing this to the attention of the board. I do not disagree with the homework policy being looked at. There is a current homework policy in place. I do not disagree with that. But as our attorney did inform us and recommended, when we have some policies that are brought to the attention of the board, before we make any sort of discussion on it, it's really good for us to understand exactly what we're talking about and the impact of what we're talking about. And this happens to be a policy that we really do need to look at bottom up rather than top down. And what I mean by bottom up is that because the majority of our board, to be honest with you, there's one person on this board that has more educational experience who can come up with homework policy or more of an input on the homework policy than the rest of us, because all of us come from different backgrounds. It behooves us to create a committee that will consist of teachers and or administrators, in addition to board members that can make comments and collaborate on this particular subject. So as we stated, we are going to push this subject matter back to spring. In addition to that, it doesn't make much sense to make changes mid school year where you're coming up with different policies regarding homework and then have to come back with issues coming from our teachers or parents that we have come up with these new homework policies that impact our students. So what we're going to do is we're going to push this back another 6 months, and we will talk about it at that time.
I just have a statement. I want to clarify. No, I just want to make a clarification. It's my turn. Thank you. Thank you.
Excuse me, but I don't appreciate being cut off, and I'm going to let you know you're being disrespectful. And so what I just said to you is I appreciate you, and you
Thank
speak
you.
now.
I said thank
You're
you.
quite-
And what this is, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
As I was saying, all we were going to do is talk about this. We won't change any kind of policy. We're going to get some new ideas out. I want to say that in our particular position, comprehensive homework should have been taking place. This shouldn't have even come. Everybody's going to have to work a little harder. And all we were going to do was talk about it. I didn't know that it would create this kind of firestorm, but I agreed with you. You know, when you know, I was superintendent.
I'm
You don't
not
mind.
interrupting you.
No, I just want to look. I want to see it. Yeah, I just like to see it.
I can sit forward as well.
Thank you. And as I was saying, I didn't want to create a firestorm. All I wanted to do was discuss it amongst ourselves of everybody working a little harder. And we're working to move those test scores, you know, in the right direction. I didn't mean for the homework program to impact the teacher's contract. They would be working harder. It would just, we would allow the children to do a little bit of homework. It wouldn't be 20 problems. It would be 10 problems, maybe with a little period there where they could go over a problem. Excuse me. No, I just want to finish. Thank you. I'll let you talk when I get finished. And that's all I wanted to do. And as I told you, rather than create a firestorm, you can move it back or let anybody take it over that you want to. It's for the children. And everybody's just going to have to work a little harder. We got to move those test scores over. That's all I'm saying.
And we both agreed, and I just felt that when we were having the conversation, I really appreciate the part that you understood that conversation is meaningless among the board if you don't have the key stakeholders at the table. It's just like you're having a conversation, but if you want to be a part of the conversation, you would come to or join the committee because the teachers are the one that are the drivers of that. And you can't take away academic freedom or demand or direct. You're the content expert. So when we had our conversation, I was like, wow, these are some great ideas, but it's a conversation there's a book and it talks about board members being in the balcony and not on the dance floor and knowing their role. And you kind of understood what I was saying about when you are on the dance floor, instead of knowing your role as a board member, you're trying to do the work of the teachers and the administrators, and that the board employs one person, which will be the superintendent, who holds those people accountable. But as many bright minds as we have in the room having that conversation, it's always welcome. It's not the whole board. It's usually one or two volunteers. It's not all teachers. You have a few teachers from every grade level, a few parents, and a few students. So then that's what creates your stakeholder involvement. And then I did send the policy to board members so that you would know we do have a homework policy and that we've had that conversation with our teachers, that they are responsible for giving homework and making sure that it's meaningful, because there's a body of literature that speaks to homework cannot just be busy work. It should be relevant for children and engaging. And so we had we spent 2.5 hours together. We had a very good conversation about that.
Okay.
Back on that.
Yep.
And, you know,
I have further comments.
All right, we have a person, we have we have Miss Lee speaking right now. Thank you.
and I appreciate Dr. Knowles what you're saying now. I just feel like that if it had been when we sent the email, when I sent the email and I asked about what's the reason, again, my intent was for the discussion only. And if we had heard the same information that you told Ron, it would have been, it would have been, okay, I understand this now. Because when you're saying it now.
I did put it in the email.
I do see that.
I'm sorry.
So,
Okay.
okay. Okay.
Okay. All right. Let's Miss Guthrie. Yes.
There are a few, one or two board members that are concerned about an issue. That there are 7 of us, and I feel that we should have some heads up. What did you see wrong with the policy that made you want now to examine it and add more or looking at it differently? We are a team that needs to collaborate. It should be stuff that's flying around when we hear it. What's going on? We're all board members, so I appreciate that, because if it happens, I would like to see it happen. That we show that type of respect for each other, because we can discuss basically anything. And Mr. Caldwell, when it comes down to children, you're right on. These are our only business, the main business. And I feel that as a board, we need to work together as a team. Otherwise, we're not going to get a lot of stuff done.
Point well said. All right. Let's go to our next agenda item, which is public
I
comment.
still have a comment.
Let's go to our next agenda item, which is public comments. Are there any comments from the public? We're all
I
consent.
still actually have a comment about that.
Yes.
If I may, I'm Cheryl Ward, Secretary for the Sandridge PTA. I had a much longer list of things that I wanted to highlight, but in the interest of time, just the main thing, our next meeting is January 10th at 7 p.m. At that meeting, we will be assembling a nominating committee that'll be responsible for seeking out potential candidates for the offices that will all become vacant and up for election, and elections will take place in March. So if you're interested in running for office, being an executive officer, president, vice president, secretary, or treasurer, certainly reach out to Anita, our treasurer, or myself. Our president is actually in Canada right now and will be for some time. Ms. Winston, Gertrude Winston, is our vice president. So you could reach out to her too if you're interested in holding office. And you have to have been a paid member of the PTA for at least 30 days if you're interested in holding office. So that was the most important thing. See you in January on the 10th at our meeting.
Thank you so much. Any other public comments before we adjourn the meeting? Okay, I motion to adjourn the meeting for this evening. Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Guthrie, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Hello? Am I being heard?
Yes.
Am I being heard?
Like board members, but we're elves.
Thank you. There any other comments? Did I hear any comments?
Yes, I do have further
Yes,
comments.
yes, Ms. Gray.
Okay, thank you so much. I was actually still trying to comment on the homework discussion.
Okay, you know what, Ms. Gray? We're going to stop that comment because again, we were only making a suggestion. We were trying, it really was not on the agenda, nor is it going to be at this particular time.
It should have been,
Well,
and
okay.
we're violating
So
board
I am going to
policy
make
when
a
we're not
motion to
allowing
adjourn.
things from up.
May I have a second, please? Roll call, please.
Ms. Guthrie,
Yes.
I hear a yes. Ms. Ray,
Yes.
I hear a yes. Mr. Colwell,
Yes.
I hear a yes. Ms. Truber,
Yes.
I hear a yes. Ms. Lee, I hear a yes. Ms. Newton, President Jenkins Brown,
Yes,
I hear a yes.
meeting adjourned. Thank you, and everyone have a great Christmas.